Welcome to Paycheck for Life, a Sarah's new and mid-career employee webinar. In this webinar, we are assuming that you're either new here or you're somewhere in the middle of your career, which is why we called it the new and mid-career employee webinar. So the bottom line there is that you are not yet near retirement, which is a good thing in this context because it means that you still have plenty of time to plan for your retirement in the future. So in this seminar, I'm going to tell you all the things that you might want to know about doing that planning. And since you are curious enough about retirement planning to watch this, you probably have some questions. Questions like, what do I need to know about my pension? Do I need to do anything? And if there's something that I need to do, what is that? So I think I know about 95% of the questions that you're going to ask, and I've arranged the answers to those in the form of this checklist. So these are the topics that we're going to cover during the webinar. But like I said, feel free to type any questions on particular topics that we're on in the Q&A as we go along. Okay, so I'm going to help you understand a little bit about Acera, some retirement basics. As part of that discussion, I'll help you understand some pension math. And the reason I'm doing that, even though your retirement is a ways away and we're not going to calculate your retirement until you get to retirement, is because if you know how this stuff works now, it's going to really help you dial in what your final retirement payment is going to be. So it's good to understand how it works now, and you'll be ahead of the game. You'll be ahead of everyone else um, once you get to retirement. So I'll talk about the retirement formula. I'll talk about purchasing service credit as part of that discussion. I will help you get a precision pension estimate for what you will be paid by Acera in retirement in the future when you retire. I will help you understand retirement eligibility. So that's when you actually become eligible to first retire if you want to retire at that early stage. I'll help you understand some additional benefits like healthcare and death benefits. We'll talk about that briefly. I will talk about designating your beneficiary or beneficiaries for those death benefits that Acera offers to your family should you pass away before retirement. And then I'll talk about the last two topics. The first one is that I'll talk about career planning options. And what I mean by that is that at some point, you're going to stop working at your Acera covered position. And then what are your options regarding Acera at that point? So we'll go through all of those options. And then as the next topic that will kind of tie the whole thing together is making a retirement planning picture. And what I mean by that is that in the future, you are going to need income in retirement because you're not going to get your paycheck anymore. So where will that income come from? And what can we do now to make sure you have adequate income when you get there? And as part of that discussion, we'll talk about starting a 457B account. And somebody asked, is Acera the same as deferred compensation? It is not. We are two separate systems. I like to tell you about deferred compensation a little bit as part of this retirement planning picture discussion because it will help you optimize your retirement income when you get there. And then I like to bring in the expert on deferred compensation who educates people on your employer's deferred compensation program. So yeah, we're two separate systems, but we like to work together to help you achieve the retirement that you are looking for. Okay, so let's jump right into the first topic. Let me help you understand a few retirement basics. I'll start off at the beginning of the story of Acera. Who is Acera? In one sense, we are this acronym that stands for the Alameda County Employees Retirement Association, but Acera is made up of a lot of people. There's 92 of us that work here. We're all government employees, like some of you, and our entire job is to provide retirement, disability, and death benefits to our members. That's you. So you are part of the who that is Acera because you're a member of Acera. And you're a member of Acera because of the position that you work in and who you work for. So you work in a retirement eligible position and you had to at least start off working in that position full time. Now, later on, you can go down to part time and maintain your retirement eligibility. But at least at the beginning, you started off working in a full time retirement eligible position for one of the six public agencies that use Acera to provide retirement benefits to their employees. So if you work for one of these agencies in Alameda County in that retirement eligible position, you automatically become an Acera member. Also, your membership is mandatory if you work in that retirement eligible position. As an Acera member, you pay into Acera's fund. So every time you get paid, if you look at your paycheck and you look at the before tax deductions column, you'll see a line that says retirement, and there's money that comes out of your check and goes into Acera's fund. And every time that happens, your employer is also making a contribution on your behalf. So you're both paying into Acera's fund. And at Acera, we don't want that money to just sit around and collect dust. So we invest it in a diverse portfolio of investments all over the world. And we earn with the goal of earning interest. And we do earn a good amount of interest if you look at our historical interest rate over the years. So it's these three sources of income: your employee contribution from each paycheck, your employer contribution that they're submitting on your behalf, and the investment earnings that give us this big pool of money that we call Acera's fund. And one of the things that we do at Acera is manage that fund. Okay, so why are we collecting all this money? What are we going to do with it? Well, the reason we're collecting all the money is because we know that as you work in your retirement eligible position, you are earning more and more credit toward retirement. Okay. So we need to collect and earn enough money to pay you a retirement when the time comes. Because at a certain point, after you earn enough credit toward retirement, you are going to stop working and stop earning credit toward retirement, and then you're going to retire and start collecting a retirement in the form of a monthly retirement allowance. So you'll get that each and every month for the rest of your life from Acera once you retire from Acera. You cannot outlive your Acera retirement. Actually a really beautiful thing. Pensions are special in this way. Your pension is guaranteed income for life. So you're going to get it each and every month for the rest of your life. And it's a guaranteed amount that you can plan on because we use a specific formula to calculate it, and I'll show you what the formula is. And we provide you tools like the pension benefit estimator in your account that you can use to get very precise estimates on what your future income will be from Acera. So it's a guaranteed income for life that you can plan on and count on for the rest of your life. And private employers do not do this much anymore. So as public employees, it's fortunate that you are able to participate in a defined benefit pension plan like Acera. One more point that I'd like to point out is that another reason why Acera in particular is special is because when you go to retire from Acera, all of those employee contributions that you paid in throughout your entire career and all the interest that we paid that we posted to your employee contribution account as every 6 months as the fund earns interest, you will receive all of that back in the first 3 to 5 years in the form of that monthly retirement allowance. So we're going to give you all your money back that you paid in that first 3 to 5 years. And then everything after that, based on our actuarial projections, you're going to live, many years after that. So if you're retired, let's say another 20, 25, 30 years after your retirement, you are still going to receive that lifetime pension, even though we've already given you back all your employee contributions. And the reason we're able to do that is because of the employer contributions, but mostly the investment earnings that pays for 3/4 of your lifetime pension. And somebody asked, what percent is the employer contribution? If you do want to know about employee and employer contribution percentages, let me see. Let me open a browser window and I can show you that real fast. Okay. Okay, so all you do is go to acera.org/contributions. And this is our retirement fund contributions page. You can see what employees pay on average. If you want to get specific, you can see what you actually pay, and you just find your tier, which I'll talk about in a minute, and you can figure it out there. And if you want to see what the employer pays, if you scroll down to the bottom, there's a link to the employer contributions page, and you can see what they pay, and it's usually a lot more than you are paying. And that's because we're not 100% funded right now, so they are making catch-up payments so that we get it back up to 100%. Okay, so let me show you this pension milestone chart, and I think that will help illuminate some of the topics that we're going to go through during the presentation. So you can expect to see many, perhaps all of these pension milestones regarding your membership with Acera throughout your career. The first milestone is your date of hire. This is your first day in your full-time retirement eligible position. Okay, then for four of our employers, 2 weeks goes by. There's a 2 week lag, and the first day of your second pay period is your date of entry into Acera's pension fund. This is the day that you start earning credit toward retirement. Now, for two of our employers, Livermore Area Recreation and Park District and Housing Authority, there is no 2 week lag. Your first day in that retirement eligible position is your first day of membership with Acera. Okay, now you're an Acera member. You start earning credit toward retirement, and you earn credit in kind of three different categories. I'll talk about that in just a minute when I talk about the retirement formula. One of the main ones that people focus on is the years of service credit. Okay, so as you work, you earn service credit. If you work 5 full-time years or the equivalent of 5 full-time years, you earn 5 years of service credit with Acera toward retirement. And after that, you are considered vested in the retirement system. Investing, it's kind of a loose concept. You'll hear that word thrown around. It kind of means guaranteed. So when you're vested in the system, you are start being able to unlock the vested benefits, the guaranteed benefits at 5 years, and that'll kind of I'll kind of illuminate that when I talk more about some of the benefits a little bit later. Okay. So once you reach 5 years, you're vested in the retirement system. Okay, then some other period of time passes, and through some combination of your years of service credit and age, there are a few combinations that get you there, and I'll talk about those in the second half of the presentation. You will achieve retirement eligibility. And this is the first day that you could retire from Acera if you choose. But many people do not. Many people will continue working past their first day of retirement eligibility because they want to earn more and more credit toward retirement to get a higher payment from Acera for the rest of their life. Um, so that probably the majority of people do that. So then the next milestone is your last day on payroll with your Acera participating employer. This is the day that you terminate your employment for whatever reason. Many people go straight into retirement, but this is the day that you stop earning credit toward retirement. And then for many people, you will work straight into retirement, and the next day after your termination date, your last day on payroll with your employer, will be your first day of retirement. And this is the day that you start earning your life, or you start collecting your lifetime pension that you've earned. Now, for some of you, you're not going to go straight into retirement. You're going to stop working and you're going to defer your retirement to a later date and become what we call a deferred member. And I will talk all about that when I talk about career planning options, and that's totally fine. Many people do that, and that is definitely something that you can do. So if that's your plan or if that's what you're considering, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that option. Okay. Okay, now you're retired and you collect your lifetime pension each month for the rest of your life until your death. And that is when your retirement payments stop. There is one more milestone, and that is because at the time of retirement, you have the opportunity to choose a beneficiary to receive a continuance after your death. A continuance is a continuing monthly payment, most of the time for the rest of the beneficiary's life. So if you choose your continuance beneficiary at the time of retirement, and then you die before your beneficiary, we would continue paying your beneficiary every month, in most cases for the rest of their life. And then after their death, the beneficiary payments would stop, and that would conclude Acera paying out all of the benefits that we owe you that you earned during your career. Okay, so those are the pension milestones. Now let me say a quick word about vesting. Vesting, like I said, comes with 5 years of service credit, and reciprocal service credit is included. So I'll talk about reciprocity in detail in the second half of the presentation. Somebody just asked a question about that. Um, but if you do have reciprocity, which is where you have worked in another public agency in California and you have credit under with their pension system, and when you come over here, you link the pension systems together to achieve some synergy between the systems. Yes, all of the service credit you earn combined across all of the systems gets you over that 5 year vesting requirement. So the answer is yes. Yes. So the answer is yes on that question. And then the guarantee, I said vesting means guaranteed. The guaranteed benefits are guaranteed by state law. So state law governs everything that we do as Sarah, how we calculate everything, how we run everything. And so state law guarantees that we must pay you the benefits that we owe you. And those guaranteed benefits are the monthly retirement benefit for life, annual cost of living adjustment, which is a percentage increase to your retirement allowance that you get every month in every year in retirement, and a $1,000 lump sum death benefit. Now, there are other death benefits associated with different retirement options that you choose from at the time of retirement, but I like to point this one out in addition to those, that this is a vested benefit. Okay, now one thing, side note that I want to point out here is you'll probably notice this term here, monthly retirement benefit. I'll probably throw around some other synonyms for this idea. Okay, pension benefit, retirement allowance, monthly pension, you know, re- other things like that. Those are all synonyms for this same concept, this vested payment that you get every month for the rest of your life. And then somebody asked a question, are the beneficiary payments the same amount as the retirement payments? It depends on which option you select. In most cases, people will select the unmodified option, which pays the most. There's five different options. And that pays a 60% continuance to a beneficiary. There are options for 100%, 50%, and everything in between 0 and 100. Um, I'll send you over to the webpage at sarah.org/options if you want to read more about it. As a new employee or mid-career employee, go explore that if you're curious, but it's not something that you need to know right now. It's something that you would want to probably explore when you're getting closer to retirement. Okay, so we do offer medical benefits for the employee and family. I'll touch on that briefly in the second half of the presentation. Okay, so let me tell you about your tier. You're all in one of these tiers, and it's based on your date of entry into Acera, your first day of Acera membership. So to find which timeline to look at here, first off, if you're a safety member, you're looking at the bottom timeline. Safety members are sheriff's deputies and probation officers. So you're looking at this timeline here. If you're not a safety member, you're a general member. So general members look at the top timeline, unless you're a general member who works for the Housing Authority or a general member who works for Livermore Area Recreation and Park District, and then you're looking at the timeline for your employer. Okay. So the way this works is if you entered Acera, your first day of Acera membership, before the cutoff for the tier, cutoff date, that puts you in the earlier tier. So if you entered Acera before July 1st, 1983, that would have put you in tier one. That was a long time ago. There aren't many tier one members left who haven't retired yet, who are still working. Now, tier two members entered Acera July 1st, 1983, all the way up to December 31st, 2012. That would have put you in tier two. Now, if you enter Acera January 1st, 2013 and beyond, that puts you in tier four. And you'll note that that's the same in any case for any of the employers in general and safety. You'll notice Housing Authority has a different tier one cutoff. LARPD has a tier three. They don't have a tier two and they have a different tier one cutoff. And then safety members have three tier twos. And if you're a safety member and you entered between October 17th, 2010 and December 31st, 2012, that would have put you, you would have had the choice between these two tiers, tier 2C and tier 2D. And you had to make that choice within your first 45 days of your safety membership. And if you didn't make it, you were defaulted into one of the tiers, one of the two. Now, having said all that, if you don't remember your Sarah entry date, you don't know which tier you're in, or both, There's an easy remedy for that. All you need to do, okay, and somebody's asking, district attorney inspectors, it sounds like you're law enforcement. Can you confirm whether they're safety members? Interesting. I've never heard that before. I don't know whether you're a safety member. An easy way to figure this out actually um, is to do what I is to log into your account on our website. So if you don't know which tier you're in, if you don't remember your date of entry, or in this case, to answer this question of whether you're a safety member or not, the best thing to do is go to Acera's website. So you go to acera.org, and at the top of every page, so you're at acera.org, and there's a login button here. Okay. Now, if you've already created a username and password, we sent everybody back at the beginning of this year. We when we relaunched this is a brand new member portal. We sent everybody a letter in the mail with a pin number. And if you didn't use it within the first 3 months, you're going to have to get a new pin to set your account up. So if that's your situation, you go to the login page, you click enroll, and then here you're going to request an enrollment pin. Okay, so then you fill out your info, you hit request pin. We'll receive your submission. We'll send you a letter in the mail with your pin in like probably 3 days. And sorry, it's going to take like a 3 day lag time, but we did that to ensure the security of the system and to make sure that your financial data is absolutely secure. And then once you receive your PIN, there's instructions on there, or you can just go back to acera.org, click the login button, and then click enroll again, and then you can put your PIN in here and fill that out, and then fill out the rest of the stuff, click enroll, create your username and password, and then you can log in. Once you get in there, you'll see your date of entry, you'll see your tier, and it will say whether you're a safety member or a general member under the tier. And if you don't want to if you don't want to wait that 3 days, you can always give us a call. Sorry, I don't know the answer to your question off the top of my head. It's 510-628-3000, and I'll type that in. We have a call center, a member services center, and their only job is to answer your questions about your pension, and they're happy to do it. Okay, so that is your tier, and the reason that there's tiers, the differences between the tiers is how we calculate the pension is slightly different among the tiers. There's different kind of rules governing each tier, and you'll see that as we go along, and I'll point that out. Oh, and somebody's asking if you worked at an Acera covered agency for less than 5 years, but that was during the tier two time frame, and then you re-entered many years later during the tier four time frame at a different Acera covered agency, should you be considered tier two or four? Well, it depends on if you took a refund from that original work time and then you come back, you may go into tier four. If you did not take a refund, if you were a deferred member during that time, you should have picked right back up in your tier two um, tier. And if you want to check out the details on that, if you go to acera.org/tier, there's some discussion down here about previous work putting you in an earlier tier. Also, reciprocity may put you in an earlier tier. So definitely check out that information. acera.org/tier. Okay, so at this point, I like to talk about I like to just kind of touch on this subject to provide context for the rest of the discussion, and then we'll return to this at the end of the presentation. So probably one of the reasons that you're here is that you're curious about doing the retirement planning. You're curious about that paycheck for life, what it takes to get that. Will that cover your entire retirement? Okay. So let's talk about that. Financial planners say that when you go to retire, so think about far in the future when you're going to retire, you're going to stop working your job, you're going to stop getting your paycheck from your employer, and you're going to need income to pay for your life. that income can come from a few different places. One of those places is that if you earn enough credit with Acera to retire, then you can collect your Acera lifetime pension, also known as your paycheck for life. So you stop getting your employer paycheck, and then Acera pays you your pension for the rest of your life. So that's one source of retirement income. Another source is probably going to be Social Security. So if you're not a safety member, you're paying into the Social Security system as you work with every paycheck. And it's possible that if you are a safety member, you did previous work and enough previous work that allows you to collect Social Security one day. So they say that you just need to pay into the Social Security system for what they call 40 quarters, or it's really like 10 years. So the equivalent of 10 years. So that's the minimum. And if you do that, you can collect Social Security one day. So you would count that among your income when you go to retire. Okay, then anything beyond that is going to be your personal savings and investments. And financial planners say that you're going to need to replace 80% of that income you're getting from your employer with this retirement income. So this retirement income is going to need to add up to at least 80% of what you were getting paid when you were working. Okay, that's called achieving 80% income replacement. Now, if you're new and you just started earning your Sarah pension, or you're kind of in the middle of your career and you haven't thought much about this, that might sound like a nerve-wracking prospect. Like, how the heck am I going to do that? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break that down for you very simply at the in the as the last topic in the presentation. So we're going to talk about doing that planning. We're going to talk about getting projections on this Sarah pension and Social Security, and then using technology to determine if you need to save more and how much to save right now. And I think you'll find that it's actually extremely simple to get a projection, get projections on that, and get on the trajectory to do that. So I'd like to show this slide now to say that we're going to talk a lot about your Acera pension, and I'm going to show you how it's calculated and the ways that you dial that in so that that is the maximum. And then we'll return to this topic at the end of the presentation. We'll talk about Social Security and additional savings and how you can dial those in to get pointed in the trajectory of the 80% income replacement. Okay, so let's talk more about your Acera pension. And let me help you understand some pension math. This is the only math I'm going to show you. Um, when we come back to this slide, we're not going to actually do this addition. We're gonna get these numbers and plug them into a calculator. Okay, so we're not going to do any math. And in fact, I'm not even going to have you do any math here. I just want to show you how this works. Okay, so if you don't like math, don't get nervous. Okay, so what I'm doing here is showing you right now, I'm giving you an early preview of how Acera is going to calculate your monthly retirement allowance when you go to retire. These are the three factors in that go into the formula, and you see it's a multiplication. And these are the three areas. These are the three ways that you earn credit toward retirement. You earn credit toward retirement in this age factor percentage category by getting older. The older you are, the higher this percentage is going to be, and I'll talk in detail about that in a second. Service credit is easy. You work 20 years, you earn 20 years of service credit. The more you work, the more service credit you earn. And your salary is a component in the formula. So getting higher and higher salaries will increase your amount of retirement allowance. Okay. So the reason I like to show you this to you now is this is the way that you dial in your retirement allowance for life by knowing how this works. So let me break it down. Let me do an example. Okay. And I'll plug some numbers in here and I'll show you how it works. Okay. So when you go to retire in the future, you are going to get a percentage of your highest salary for each individual year of service that you work. So this sentence is saying what this multiplication is doing. So let me plug in some numbers here. Okay, let's say, for example, that the percentage of your highest salary that you are going to get for each year of service is 2%, just as an example. There are other percentages, and I'll show those to you in a minute. And let's also say, for the sake of this example, that you work for exactly 20 years and retire. So when we do the calculation, we put in 20 years of service credit in the formula that you earned, okay? So your retirement allowance is going to be 2% of your highest salary for each one of these 20 years of service. So basically, our software is going to take this 2% and it's going to line it up 20 times and add them all together because you're getting a 2% for each individual one of the 20 years that you work. So 2% plus 2% plus 2% 20 times is 40% when you add it all up. And you can see that, in fact, we're multiplying them together. 2% times 20 years is 40%. Okay. So now we know your retirement allowance is going to be 40% of your highest average salary. So let's finish out the example. Let's say your highest average monthly salary was $5,000 per month. Well, now we know if we finish out the multiplication that your retirement allowance is going to be 40% of 5,000, which is $2,000. Okay. So so now you can see that it's actually a pretty basic concept. It's a pretty basic multiplication. So your retirement allowance in this example will be 40% of 5,000, which is $2,000. Okay. You'll also note that since this is a multiplication, the higher any of these three numbers are, the higher the age factor percentage, the higher the service credit, the higher the salary equals a higher monthly retirement allowance for life. So that's one of the ways that you can make sure that you can maximize your retirement allowance is paying attention to these three numbers because the higher each one of them are, the higher your retirement allowance is going to be. Now, in most cases, in a lot of cases that you don't have a ton of latitude to dial these in because it's a pension and it's basically, the longer you work, the more, service credit you get. And as you earn more service credit, you age. So this number goes up. And then, the longer you're here, you're going to get cost of living increases and perhaps probably raises. And, but there are a few ways that you can increase these numbers and make sure they're the maximum. So let me tell you about those and let me explain each one of these factors, these three factors in a little more detail. And I think that that'll help illuminate it. Okay, so first of all, I'll talk about the age factor percentage. When you go to retire, it's not necessarily going to be 2%. That was just an example, okay? So which percentage are we going to use? What percentage of your highest salary will you get for each year of service? Well, it depends on your age at retirement. The way this works is that there is this age factor chart, and this is a sample of that. And every tier, this is one of the ways that the tiers differ. Every tier has its own set of age factors that are written into the law that govern how a SARA calculates these things. These percentages do not change, so whatever your percentage is for your tier, that's what the set of percentages is going to be by the time you retire. Okay, so what you're going to look at in here for this example is just your tier. If you're a general tier 4 member, you're only looking at this column. If you're a safety tier 4 member, you're only looking at this column. Okay, you can forget about the other ones. So the way this works is let's say you're a general tier 4 member and you retire at age 60. Well, our software has all these built in, so it would find the intersection of those two things, age 60, general tier 4, 1.80%, and that is the number that we would plug in to the age factor percentage here, 1.80%. That's the percentage of your highest salary you would get for each year of service. You'll note the percentages get larger the older you are when you retire, so aging is one of the ways that you increase your retirement allowance. Um, and that kind of goes along with working longer. As you work longer, you age. And so you'll note that the percentages go up as you age. The longer you wait to retire, the older you are, the higher the percentage you're going to get, up to a maximum for your tier. That is denoted by the blue boxes. So if you retired at age 67 for Tier 4 General, you would get 2.50% of your highest salary for each year of service. If you retired at age 68 or 69 or 79, you would still get that 2.50% because this percentages stop going up when you hit the maximum. And the other thing that I want to point out is that I skipped a bunch of the increases here. Your age factor actually increases every quarter year that you age. There's a slight incremental increase. And if you want to see all of those factors, you can find those on our website. And they don't all fit on the slide. So I just put these examples on here. But every quarter year you age. So if this were the full chart, it would say 52, 52 and a quarter, 52 and a half, 52 and three quarters, 53, and so on and so forth. And there would actually be an incremental increase for every quarter year that you age. Okay, so that is a lot of info about the age factor percentage. If you don't want to retain the info or you're worried about retaining it, don't worry. The bottom line, probably the biggest takeaway, and perhaps the only takeaway you need from this particular topic is the idea that an older retirement age equals a higher age factor percentage up to the max for your tier. Okay. And you can always go back to acera.org slash age or acera.org slash tier if you want to learn more about that. Okay, let me tell you about the years of service credit. There's one question up about service credit, and there's a couple about salary. I will definitely get to those. Okay. So, years of service credit. Service credit is measured in years, and you start earning service credit on your date of entry into Acera, and you're going to continue earning service credit throughout your entire career, all the way up until your termination date. In fact, you're going to earn service credit and up until your last 15 minutes of your last day on payroll because we calculate your service credit down to the fraction of a day, which is why if you log into your account on our website and you look at your amount of service credit that you've earned so far, there was going to be a bunch of decimal places after the whole number of years, and that's us calculating your service credit down in the fraction of a day. And you get all of those decimal places in the formula when we calculate your retirement. You earn service credit during your regular work hours. So that's the main time that you earn service credit. But you also earn service credit during your earned leave times, including earned vacation leave, earned sick leave, management leave if you get that, comp time if you get that, holidays and floating holidays. When you mark those on your timesheet, those do not count against you for the purposes of earning service credit. You are earning service credit during that time. Times when you do not earn service credit are anytime you're on leave without pay, anytime you purchase an additional vacation, which a few of our employers allow, you purchase extra vacation that is on top of your earned vacation. Whenever you mark a purchased vacation on your timesheet, you're not earning service credit during that time. Now, having said that, if you need to purchase an extra vacation amount here or there throughout a long career, I think you'll find that you're not missing out on that much pension by missing out on a few weeks here or there from a purchased vacation. And if you need to take a purchased vacation to maintain your sanity, I'd say go ahead and do it. Okay, also sold vacation. Sold vacation is something some of our employers allow. You take your earned vacation and sell it back to your employer for cash. You don't actually go out on the vacation. Now, if you do that, you do not earn service credit for sold vacation. You could earn salary credit for it in the salary component of the formula. I'll talk about that in a second. But you don't earn service credit for it, and you do not earn service credit for overtime, on-call time, or standby time. And somebody's asking, does vacation buy affect the service greatly? Here's how to figure out how much it will affect your retirement allowance. You take the fraction of the amount of purchased service credit you have. Okay. You take the weeks, you take the time of purchased service credit you have, you put that in the numerator of the fraction. You take your years of service credit, you put that in the denominator. So, for example, you work for 1 year and you go out on 1 week of purchased vacation. And if we're just looking at 1 year of service credit, that would decrease your retirement allowance by 1/52nd. Now, if you work for 2 years, but you're only out on 1 week of purchased vacation, that would decrease your retirement allowance by 1/104th. So you can see that the longer you work and the less purchased vacation you buy, the smaller and smaller the fraction gets. Okay, so one of the ways, the main way that you dial in the service credit part of the retirement allowance is by working longer and earning more service credit. But there is this other additional option, which is that if you have some time, one of these categories of time that is eligible for you to purchase as service credit, you can purchase it by paying for it with Acera. You give us money, to purchase the service credit. And that will increase your amount of service credit in the retirement formula when we go to calculate it, which of course will increase your retirement allowance because it's one of the three multipliers in the formula. Okay. Now you can't just buy airtime, what they call airtime, which is just, I want to buy an extra year, so, sell it to me. So that Acera has never allowed that, and that was actually disallowed statewide by the law that was passed in 2012. But if you do have one of these types of time, and the theme here is that this is a type of time incurred in relation to your public work that the law did not allow for you to earn service credit during the time, but it does allow for you to go back and buy it to increase your service credit. Okay, so let me walk you through these. One of them, the first one, is basically time worked for your employer before you achieved your full-time retirement eligible position. Now, I'm not talking about working for a temporary agency or an employment agency, because that was for a different employer, you know, um, you know, uh, on paper, that was for a different employer. So that's not purchasable. Also, if you were, I'm muted? Oh, I think your speaker might be muted. It looks like I'm still getting a signal. Can you all still hear me? Let me know if you all are still hearing sound. Okay. So yeah, some of you are still hearing sound, so it looks like maybe your speaker went out. Um, but of course, if you're muted, that person can't hear. So let me type that in. Okay, or if their speaker went out. Okay, there we go. Okay, so the other time that does not count is contract work. That's not purchasable. So the time that is purchasable is if you started out working for one of Acera's six employers part-time, just plain old part-time work directly for the employer. That's purchasable once you achieve your full-time retirement eligible position and become an Acera member. Also, seasonal, intermittent, service as needed, project, per diem work, those are all purchasable categories. Tap time, the county's temporary assignment pool, all of that time is purchasable. Okay. Once you become an Acera member. And somebody's asking, can I get a copy of the PowerPoint? Absolutely. You can download it right now if you go to acera.org/seminars and open up the first accordion here, Paycheck for Life, and there is a PDF right here. And I believe, oh, I did not. I think I updated it a few days ago and I did not upload it. It's one slight update, but I'll update it directly after this presentation. Okay, next category, days, the 2 week lag time between your hire date and your entry date, that's purchasable. Unpaid medical leave, somebody was asking about this when you're on family leave. If you go out on unpaid medical leave, so you're out on unpaid leave and it's for your own medical condition, when you return from that leave, you can purchase that time up to a year per instance. But it's only for your medical condition, not a family member's. And the question was specifically about family leave. So you're probably asking about FMLA or the Family Medical Leave Act time, and that's a federal law that kind of puts um, a parentheses around a particular time that you're out, and it guarantees that you have a job during, while you're out on that family medical leave, and you can return to your job later. But if you're using your balances, your sick leave and perhaps your vacation leave and any other leave balances during that FMLA time, you're already earning service credit for that time. Okay, but let's say that you run out of the leave and now you're just on unpaid medical leave. Well, then you're not earning service credit. And so when you return from that time, you can buy that time. State disability insurance leave, very similar. If you're out on that, you can purchase it when you return. Sometimes what happens is you're out on state disability insurance leave and you are receiving a partial paycheck from your employer. You're earning service credit for that partial paycheck time. And so then when you return from the state disability insurance leave, you can buy that partial time back. Um, and then Military leave during membership. This is not prior military service. This is if you're actively employed here. You go out on military leave during your active membership. You return from that military leave. You can buy that military leave time. Um, and I don't think there's a limit on the amount of time that you can buy. Redeposits of prior memberships. This is where you used to be an Acera member in the past. You did some work for one of our employers and you stopped working there. And when you did that, you took a refund of your contribution account. And when you took a refund of your contribution account, you basically canceled your Acera membership and you lost all your service credit from that original time. Okay, now you're back working here again and you think, oh, I want that service credit back. What do I do? Well, you can redeposit an equivalent amount of money that you had taken out and purchase that original service credit back, and that's called a redeposit of a prior membership. Okay, now the final category is other California prior public service time. And this is where you used to work for another public agency in California and you're not eligible to collect a pension from whatever pension system that agency uses. Usually it's one of two things. One, you didn't work there for long enough to qualify for benefits from their pension system, or two, you left and that job, and when you left that job, you took a refund from their pension system, so you canceled your membership over there. Now you can buy that time as a Sarah service credit as long as you don't have money on deposit with that other pension system anymore. And so if you worked for like East Bay Mud for a couple of years, you could buy that time. You could buy 2 years worth of a Sarah service credit for that time. Okay, now I have some other details I want to give you about service credit purchases. One of the things that I want to tell you about is the deadline for doing it. The deadline for purchasing service credit is you need to purchase the service credit before you retire. So that's the only deadline. So you could take a long time to purchase the service credit. You probably don't want to, and I'll show you that in just a second when I talk about cost. But you just need to purchase it before you retire, except for the military leave. That has a deadline on it, and there's more about that deadline at acera.org/service. Okay. Um, and then what else do I want to say about this? Somebody's asking, you're saying I was on maternity leave for 9 months and didn't use the little time I had on the books. So is there a time frame? It was 20 years ago. Yeah, you just have to purchase that before you retire if you want it to be included as part of your service credit. Okay. Now, a couple of people are asking, is purchasing service credit worth it? And how do I determine that? Okay. So first, let me talk about time that's not eligible for purchase, and then I'll talk about the cost. Okay. Any vacation purchase time that you go out on when you're not earning the service credit, you also cannot purchase that time back. Non-medical leave without pay, if you're just on plain old leave without pay and it's not medical leave for your own condition, you can't buy it. Like I said, contract or temporary agency time not purchasable, and other prior public service, this category right here, if you still have the contributions on deposit with the other employer, we won't let you buy the time until you take a refund over there. Okay, now, what is it going to cost to make a service credit purchase should you have one of these types of time and you want to make the service credit purchase, or you're just curious about what it would cost? Um, what it's going to cost you is what your employee contributions would have been had you worked that time plus interest. Okay. So the employee contributions part is that you are all paying a certain rate of your paycheck into a Sarah's fund. And if you look at your pay stub, you'll see what that dollar amount is that's coming out of your pay stub. Okay. So let's say that you had 3 months of unpaid medical leave that you get back from. Now, had you been working for that 3 months, you would have been paying into a Sarah's fund with every paycheck. Okay. So what it's going to cost you to buy that 3 months back of unpaid medical leave is whatever that dollar amount would have been had you worked that time. So one of the ways that you can kind of ballpark that is you can look at whatever the pay stub is right after you get back from the unpaid medical leave. You can see how much your contribution is for that pay stub, and then you can multiply it by the weeks or by the pay periods that you were out. And so that's what the purchase cost would be, unless you wait. The longer you wait to purchase service credit, the more expensive it gets because you're going to also have to pay the interest that money would have earned. So if you were on that unpaid medical leave for 3 months and you come back and you don't purchase it immediately, let's say it was 5 years ago. Well, had you paid that money into the fund, we would have invested it and it would have earned 5 years worth of interest. So whatever that amount of interest it would have earned would have been, we're going to tack that on to the contribution amount. So the longer you wait to purchase service credit, the more expensive it gets because of the interest that you have to pay that money would have accrued. Okay, now how do you figure out how much it's going to cost? The easiest way to do it is just to let us do it for you. We are working on a calculator that will give you, that will give you a preview of how much it's going to cost. But probably the best, until we get that finished, the best way to do it is to just ask us to calculate it. And you do that by filling out our purchase request form at acera.org/forms. So you just go over to acera.org, go under forms and publications, go to forms. It's in alphabetical order. You go down to the purchase request form. It's a DocuSign form. So you can just completely fill it out electronically, but I can show you what it looks like. You just fill this out. You check the boxes for the types of time you're trying to buy. You give us as much info about the time as you can. In DocuSign, it'll look the same, but you can submit it electronically. And you hit submit. We will do the calculations for you and we'll send you a letter in the mail telling you how much it's going to cost and giving you different options for paying for it, either all at once or over time. And at that point, you can decide whether you want to make the service credit purchase or not, and how much it's going to. Once you learn how much it's going to cost, and you can also buy just part of the time, except for the redeposits, or not if you want to. Um, and somebody's asking about purchasing service credit for the UC system. Let me get back to that in just a second. Okay. You do have these purchase options that we will give you in the letter. You can write us a lump sum check post-tax. You can roll over pre-tax funds from a pre-tax account if you have some funds in there. We'll split it up, the cost up for you, and take it out of your paycheck post-tax to make it easy for you to do it over time or any combination of the above. So you tell us on that letter that we send you, you mark it and send it back to us, and that's how you start the process. Um, so let me answer the rest of the questions on this. A couple of you were asking, how do I determine whether it's worth it to make the service credit purchase? Somebody was talking about a maternity leave from 20 years ago. So that might, get a little bit costly when we add all the interest in there. Or somebody's asking, you're saying you were tapped for 4 months before being hired into public health, and you looked into purchasing the service credit. Um, and it sounds like you already went through this, and we told you it was going to be about $4,000, and you're asking if it's worth it. Okay. So what you do, your first step is to figure out the cost. Okay, so you can't really do anything before you figure out the cost. So you go ahead and complete the service purchase, the purchase request form. Wait for the letter to come from us. We do get a lot of these, so it could take a couple of months for us to get back to you, especially because sometimes the departments and employers don't give us the info um, that quickly. So you wait to get the letter from us to tell you how much it's going to cost. Then what you're going to do is you're going to log into um, your account on our website. So go ahead and if you haven't done that yet, go ahead and create your login um, and get into your account on our website. Okay. Once you get in there, there's a benefit estimator tool. And the benefit estimator tool allows you to do projections on what your retirement allowance will be from Acera in whatever retirement scenarios you want to do, that you want to get projections for. So what you do is you pick a plausible retirement scenario for yourself. You say, okay, I'm probably going to retire at age 60, or whatever it is for you. So you pick dates that correspond to that scenario. You plug those into the benefit estimator. You hit submit. You end up with your PDF benefit estimate, and it's going to estimate your monthly payment from Acera. Uh, in in the scenario, uh, in that retirement scenario. Okay. That's your first estimate. You're going to run two estimates. Okay. The second estimate you're going to do, and you know what? I actually have screenshots of this. So let me just show it to you. Here's what it looks like. You plug in your retirement scenario, you hit generate. Okay. You end up with this retirement benefit estimate where you look at the unmodified option for now. Okay. Then that's estimate number one. You go back to the benefit estimator, you plug in the same numbers for the exact same scenario, but you have an option here to override the amount of service credit. So you would check the box and you would increase the amount of service credit. You go back, look at the retirement benefit estimate, see how much service credit it's using. Okay. You take that number and you add to it the amount of service credit that you're going to try to buy. So if you were going to try to buy a 3 months worth of unpaid medical leave, that's a quarter year, 0.25. So you take this number, you'd add 0.25, you plug it back into this um, field right here, check the box. Like once you check the box, you can plug it in, hit generate. It will give you an estimate with that increased amount of service credit. Your estimated monthly benefit is going to be bigger in the second estimate. Then what you do is you compare the two estimates. You have the first one where your retirement allowance is lower. You have the second one where it's higher because you have more service credit. And you look at the amount of increase. You can take the smaller one and subtract it from the bigger one. And it will tell you the difference. It will tell you the amount increase of your retirement allowance in the second estimate. And then you compare that dollar amount, the additional amount that you're going to get in retirement with how much we're telling you it's going to cost to make the service credit purchase. So, for example, you send us a purchase request and we send you the letter and we say it's going to cost you $1,000. Let's say 1,200. It's going to cost you $1,200 to make the service credit purchase. And then you go run these two estimates, and estimate number two is $100 higher than estimate number one. That sounds worth it to me. Because if you take the 1,200 that we're telling you it's going to cost and you divide it by the $100 increase in two estimates, it's only going to take you 12 months of increased retirement estimates to get that money back. So the thing that you're thinking about is the fact that at some point in the future, because you're paying money to make the service credit purchase, it is going to you are going to get that money back at some point in your retirement because your retirement allowance is going to be higher. But the question for you, whether you're determining it's worth it, is how long is it going to take you to get that money back? If it's going to take a few years of increased retirement payments to get that amount that you paid for the service credit purchase back, that sounds worth it to me. Because on average, you're probably going to be retired, 20, 25, 30 years. Now, if it's going to take 30 years to get the money back, then you're going to start to think, well, is it really worth it? And that's how you figure that out. Okay, thanks for that. Thanks for bearing with me on that discussion. Let me just make sure I answered all the service credit questions. Okay. Okay, somebody's saying that when they requested the enrollment PIN, they received an error. We're unable to process your enrollment PIN request. Contact the retirement office for assistance. You can call us at 510-628-3000. And that number is out on our website, on our contact page, sarah.org /contact or contact us. And our phone number is right here. But one thing I'll mention is that if you get that error, sometimes what the problem is the zip code. We may have a previous zip code on file for you, especially if you haven't changed your address with your employer. So try a previous zip code. Try the whole thing again with a previous zip code. Also make sure that you're putting in the date in the number format um, with slashes. If you're not doing it that way, then you can get an error that way as well. You can also use the date picker feature here, and it will just do it for you. So that's kind of the two main things that people run into with that. But definitely give us a call if you need help. Okay, somebody's asking, what about public service through the UC system? Is that purchasable? Or is that, yeah, I don't know the answer to that. The place to find that would be if you go to sarah.org/service. Okay, let's see here. I'm not seeing anything about the UC system one way or the other there. So I would go ahead and give us a call. Or if you already are, you already have created your login in your with our Member Direct portal, you can email us in there as well. And then I'll figure that out after the presentation and update the page because yeah, we should mention that. Sorry that that's not on there. Okay, and then somebody's asking, I'm confused about ineligibility agencies or eligible agencies. So I worked only a few months at Alameda County, but now many years later, I work at another agency under Sarah. Never took the payout. So does that mean I lose the service time and won't be part of the earlier tier? No, you should. If you never took a refund, your date of entry should be into that when you entered a Sarah for that earlier work time. And you can verify that in your account on our website by logging into your account. And if it looks wrong in there, if you don't see that earlier date or earlier service credit in there, you should definitely contact us so we can get that fixed. Okay, so that is the age factor percentage, the service credit. The service credit was the longest discussion of this. So let me talk a little bit about the highest average monthly salary. How do we calculate that? When you go to retire, our software will find your period of highest pay in your career. And our pension lingo is that this is your final compensation period. If you're in tiers 1 and 3, your final compensation period is your highest consecutive 26 biweekly pay periods or 12 monthly pay periods. If you're in tiers 2 and 4, your final compensation period is your highest consecutive 78 biweekly or 36 monthly pay periods. So essentially, if you're in tiers 1 and 3, it's your highest year of pay. Tiers 2 and 4, it's your highest 3 years of pay. And our goal is to calculate your highest average monthly salary. So our software will look at your total pay during this highest year or highest 3 years, and it will divide by the number of months in that time period to calculate your highest average salary over that highest period of pay, consecutive period of pay. So again, it's your average salary over your highest 3 years or your highest 1 year, depending on your tier. And somebody had asked exactly that question earlier, so that's the answer to that question. Okay, somebody asked, when you do the calculation, do you use pre-tax or average monthly salary? Use your pre-tax salary. Yes. So the pay that goes in there is your gross pay before any deductions are taken out. And the pay categories are there's four of them. There's your base pay, and then there could be some other types of pay that could count toward your highest average monthly salary calculation. Sometimes these other pay codes are known as footnotes. There are lots of different pay codes. There's probably 1,000 of them. Some of them count, some of them don't. And if you're curious about whether your extra pay codes count, you can look them up on this page and find out whether they count or not. The one pay code that I do know that never counts is overtime. Now, there's two more types of pay that could be included in the highest average salary calculation. If you're in tiers one and two, some compensation for unused earned vacation could be included. Um, Not tiers three or four, only tiers one and two. And that's if you sell vacation back to your employer while you're still employed, or you simply have vacation left over on the books when you stop working. It's known as a vacation cash out. Um, and some of that could be included. I don't take a deep dive into that topic in this presentation because, that's really something that you don't need to know this early before you retire. But if you do want to learn more about that, go to acera.org, scroll down to the bottom, click on the pre-retirement webinar, which is the webinar we do in the years leading up to retirement. It's a YouTube video. Fast forward through it until you get to the slide that looks just like the one I was showing you, this one right here. And then, once you get there, I talk about that topic for probably 15 minutes. Okay, and then the one more thing I want to say about the salary calculation is that if you're in tier four, there is a limit that's written into the law that created tier four, and that law took effect on January 1st, 2013, that there's a cap on the annual dollars that Acera is allowed to use to calculate your highest average salary for calculating your retirement. The cap is based on the Social Security wage index limit, um, which is a number that goes up every year. The cap for 2025 for this year, if you're a general member and you make more than $155,081, or a safety member and you make more than $186,096, we have to cap your salary calculation at that annual dollar figure. So we can't include more annual dollars in your salary calculation for calculating your retirement than that. So that's what happens when you go to retire. Now, by the time you all retire, these caps are going to probably be a lot higher because these numbers go up every year. In fact, we just posted the 2026 numbers out on our webpage, acera.org/limits. Um, and the way this works while you're working throughout your career is that if you do have one of the higher salaries, um, your contributions to Acera stop at the point in the year where you go past the cap. So if you were a general tier four member, and let's say that you earned this amount of money in October, well, in October we would stop taking contributions out from your paycheck for the rest of the year, and then they would kick back in on January 1st. And that would give you a little more money for the rest of the year to save in your, like, perhaps your 457B account. And then somebody's asking, so it's not one's highest salary, it's what the cap dictates. That's correct. So if you do have a higher salary than these numbers, when we go to calculate, when we go to do this calculation, it's not going to take your total dollars made during your highest 3 years. It's going to take the capped dollars during that time and divide it by 36 months to get your highest average salary. And that's just the way the Tier 4 works. And that's what the state legislature decided back in 2012 when they passed the Public Employees Pension Reform Act that created Tier 4. So sorry that that's the case if you do have one of those high salaries. But I will talk at the end of the presentation about how to make up for that in 457B savings. And somebody had earlier, there was one outstanding question on the board. Oh yeah, you were asking about the temporary assignment pool. Yeah, all that time is purchasable. Okay, here is the whole thing put together. The whole retirement allowance formula. If this example is a Tier 4 member, retires at age 65, they earned 25 years of service credit exactly, 0.000. And so we know because they're a Tier 4 member and they're retiring at age 65, when we look at the age factor percentage chart, their age factor percentage is 2.30%. of their highest salary that they're going to get for each one of these 25 years of service. Their highest salary was $6,000, so we multiply it all together to get their retirement allowance. And now, if we multiply these first two together, they are achieving 57.5% salary replacement because 2.30% times 25 years is 57.5%. So their retirement allowance is 57.5% of their highest average working salary. And if you do replace 57% of your highest salary with your Sarah pension, you're doing really well and you're well on your way to that 80% income replacement. We will go into detail about that at the second half of the presentation. So maybe the last thing I'll do before we take a break, we may have time for one more thing, is I'll show you how to get a precision pension estimate for yourself. Because I talked in detail about what goes into calculating your final pension. So you know how to, maximize those numbers. You maximize the service credit by working longer and perhaps purchasing service credit if you have those types of time to purchase. The way to maximize the salary is just to pay attention to the cost of living increases that you're getting and also the potential for raises, the potential for promotions. Also, another potential way to increase your salary is by um, taking a new job for a different agency and establishing reciprocity and linking the systems together. And I will talk about that a little bit later when I talk about career planning options. But that would be another way to increase that salary amount, to increase your retirement allowance. Okay, let me talk about getting a precision pension estimate. How do you do that? You log into your account at acera.org, press the login button, and then you go through the login screen. Once you get in there, there's this benefit estimator. You click estimate a benefit and it will take you to this screen. So I'll zoom in here so you can see it a little bit better. You're going to think of your plausible retirement scenario that you want a projection for, an estimate for, and you plug in dates that correspond to that scenario. The dates that it's asking you for is your last day on payroll, which is your separation date, and your payments begin date, which is your first day of retirement. Now, if you want to see what happens if you go straight from active work into retirement, put in two consecutive dates here. So you go out of work one day, the next day, calendar day after that is your first day of retirement. But if you want to see what happens if you stop working and defer your retirement to a later date, you can do that too. And these might not be one day after the other. There might be a gap between the dates. Okay. You can put in beneficiary info if you want. If you have already designated a beneficiary with Acera for death benefits, this may be pre-populated, so you can just leave it alone if you want. If you do that, make sure the date of birth is correct because some of them are incorrect, and if the date of birth is incorrect, it can throw off some of the numbers. Now, if you want these checkboxes allow you to modify your estimate. If you want a nice conservative estimate, leave the boxes unchecked and then click generate. And you end up with this PDF retirement benefit estimate. Page one gives you your estimated monthly pension from Acera. Page two tells you the different numbers that it used to calculate that estimate, including the projected salary date range it's looking at, which is your final compensation period, your average salary that it's projecting, your years of service credit, and your age at retirement. And there's some other data in there. Now, to zoom in on the estimated monthly benefit on page one, you'll note that it does give you an estimate for the five different options that you're going to choose from when you go to retire. Now, like I was saying earlier, if you do want to explore what those different options do for you, what they do is they give you a different amount as an Acera retiree. That's the first column. The second column is what the continuance payment would be every month after your death to your continuance beneficiary. So if you do want to dig into that topic right now, you feel free at acera.org/options. If you don't want to worry about that right now, don't even worry about it. Just look at this number right here, which is the number that most people choose anyway, the unmodified option, because it pays the highest to you as an Acera retiree. And then somebody saying, wow, mine says I am eligible to retire. That's amazing. So, congratulations on that. So, you could just go ahead and retire if you want to. Um, okay. And, oh, and you're saying, oops, ineligible. Well, actually, the next topic I have is retirement eligibility dates. So, we'll talk about that in just a second. And then somebody's asking, that I'm throwing out a lot of info at you and you're having trouble wrapping your head around it. What are your options for that? We don't really do live appointments for people who are not within like 3 months of retirement. But what we do, instead of, scheduling one of those with us, is you can call us anytime and speak to one of our member services people, and they will walk you through any aspect of this. They'll look in your account, they'll walk you through everything, they'll help you do that planning, and you can talk to them about whatever you want. And you can call them at 510 628 3000. And it's just, during business hours, not on holidays. Okay, actually, yeah, let me do this real quick and then we'll take a break. Let me help you understand your retirement eligibility. So, in the future, at some point in your membership with Acera, you become eligible to retire through a combination of your years of service credit and age. For tiers one, two, and three, there are three different combinations that will get you to retirement eligibility. And for tier four, there's two combinations. I'll show you that slide next. Okay. So for tiers one, two, and three, the first combination is that you are at least age 50, you have at least 5 years of service credit, and you have at least 10 years of membership with Acera. Now, the tiers one, two, and three closed over 10 years ago. So everyone in tiers one, two, and three already has 10 years of membership. So forget about this line right here. Don't even worry about it. Just focus on you're at least age 50 and you have at least 5 years of service credit and you can retire. So it actually doesn't take that much service credit. You just need the 5 years to be vested and you can retire at age 50. Or as a general member, you can have 30 years of service credit, or as a safety member, you could have 20 years of service credit and retire at any age, even if it's younger than age 50. Or if you don't have the 5 years of service credit, but you're age 70, you can retire at age 70 or older with any amount of service credit, even if it's less than the 5 years you need for option number one. So that's how you become eligible to retire under tiers one, two, and three. For tier four, there's two combinations that get you to retirement eligibility. For general members, you have to be at least age 52. For safety members, you have to be at least age 50. And you have to have at least 5 years of service credit, and you can retire and draw a lifetime pension from Acera. So I always find this interesting because you don't have to wait until like, what people imagine your retire, the age that people retire at, which is like 65 or 67 or 62 or 60. You could actually retire at age 52 as a general member or 50 as a safety member after you have the 5 years of service credit. Now, of course, the more service credit you earn and the older you are, the higher your retirement allowance is going to be. So you just have to keep that in mind. Option number two for tier four is that you can be age 70 and retire with any amount of service credit, even if it's less than the 5 years that you need under option number one. So if you had 4 years of service credit, you could retire at age 70 and draw a lifetime pension on that 4 years of service credit. Okay, let me help you understand some additional benefits that Acera offers, including medical, dental, vision, and other non-guaranteed benefits. Um, we'll talk briefly about that in just a second. Disability retirement, that is something I don't really go into detail about in this webinar, but we do have a lot of info on our disability page on our website. And basically, if you ever become permanently disabled and you can no longer perform your job duties, you can apply for disability retirement, which is kind of like you're, kind of retiring early in a sense than you were planning. And so we do have that option for disability retirement. It's kind of a whole process. It can take like 6 months or longer to go through that. But there's more info on our website about that. And then death benefits. I'll tell you all about that. Okay, so let me start with the first one, medical, dental, vision. I don't want to give you too many details about this because, they're medical plans, they change every year, the costs change every year, contracts get renegotiated, all that. What I do want to tell you is about what it takes to be eligible for these benefits, and that will help you with your career planning. Okay, so these are extra benefits that the county decided in the 80s to start a reserve fund to pay for these extra benefits so that the retirees could have this extra money to pay for this kind of stuff in retirement. So this is on top of your guaranteed pension. And Acera's board of retirement, we have our own separate board. They are the ones that manage the reserve fund, and their entire goal is to keep the fund running, to keep it sustainable, so that they can continue offering these healthcare type subsidies and non-guaranteed benefits into the future. So they closely monitor how much is going out of the fund, how much is coming into the fund. The fund gets regular interest when we earn interest, and it also has other mechanisms of money that goes from Acera's fund into it. Currently, there is over a billion, I think there's $1.2 billion in there, so it's pretty sustainable. But what the board does is they set these qualifications because in order to keep the fund sustainable, this is one of the ways that they do it is you got to meet minimum qualifications to start qualifying to receive the benefits. They might also make little adjustments here and there over the years. Um, so they always have that latitude to adjust the rules in order to keep the fund sustainable. But their rules for who gets eligible for these benefits are based on years of Acera service credit to qualify. So this is not reciprocal service credit doesn't count, but service credit purchases do count. Okay. So you'll note you need at least 10 years of Acera service credit to start qualifying for the medical dental vision subsidies. Okay. Now there's five benefits here. The medical subsidy, the name of it is the monthly medical allowance, which is what MMA stands for. And there's three levels of it. There's dental subsidy, vision subsidy, and Medicare subsidy that helps you pay for being enrolled in Medicare. And all of them start at least at by having at least 10 years of Acera service credit. So you have to work here and earn at least 10 years of Acera service credit to qualify for them. Now, if you do reach the 15-year mark or the 20-year mark, your medical subsidy would increase. You'd be eligible for the increased subsidy. So this is kind of all I want you to know about that right now. We do have medical dental vision plans that you can enroll in as a retiree that we administer. Excuse me, that go along with these subsidies. Excuse me. So, and you can enroll family members. The subsidies are only for the Acera member. But that's kind of all you need to know at this point in your career. So just know that this is out there. And the main thing that I wanted to show you is this years of Acera service credit to qualify, which is why I like to return to the pension milestone chart and add in a milestone for the healthcare subsidies. Because this will help you think about, this could help you think about how long you want to work here. Maybe you have already worked here 9.5 years and you were thinking about going somewhere else and working, like maybe in the private sector. Well, you may want to reconsider that now that you know that there's this 10-year milestone that you need to hit to get the healthcare subsidies. So you may want to stick around for another 6 months, if that, in that example, to get over the 10-year mark. And as soon as you have 10 years of service credit, then you would qualify for these. And these would represent between the first level of the medical subsidy, the dental subsidy, the vision subsidy, and the Medicare subsidy. This is hundreds of dollars extra that you would get in retirement on top of your pension. So it's definitely good to target that if you can to get past the 10-year mark. And then there's a question, are the medical benefits available to spouses too for cost? Yes, for cost. You're in tier two and you want to know, yeah, the subsidies do not apply to spouses. So there's more info on our website about what the current benefits are in case you're curious. If you go under retirees and you go to health care plans and benefits, we have a whole page that shows you what the plans are. There's this enrollment guide here, which is a 36-page guide that we publish every year, and it has all the details of the plans. So you can explore that if you want to. And then somebody's asking, Medicare subsidy means that Sarah will pay for our Medicare A and B payments. It's for Medicare Part B. Usually, Medicare Part A doesn't cost you anything if you already have paid into the system for 10 years. It's Medicare Part B that comes with a cost. And the Medicare subsidy is designed to pay the cost of being enrolled in Medicare Part B for most people. Okay, so we already talked about that. Let's talk about death benefits and designating your beneficiary or beneficiaries for those death benefits and keeping your beneficiary designations current. What is a beneficiary? That is just somebody who gets benefits in general. Now, your ACERA beneficiary is the person that you designate to get your ACERA death benefits. And you do that in one of two places. We have a beneficiary designation form. Also, if you're new here and you just filled out our Acera welcome form, that's another place that you are able to designate your beneficiary. Okay, now, um, what death benefits? Okay, so what I'm going to show you is a few slides on death benefits before retirement. Because when you go through your career here and you retire, once you're retired, there's kind of a different set of death benefits that you're looking at for your family members. So what I'm going to tell you about, and that's something that you're going to want to explore when you get closer to retirement. What I'm going to tell you about now, since you all are either new employees or in your mid-career, is what should happen, what benefits would be available to your beneficiaries should you die before retirement. So if you are not yet vested, but you are still actively working for one of our employers, your beneficiaries would receive basically a refund of your contribution account. They would receive a return of your employee contributions and interest. Additionally, they would receive 1 month of your salary for each year of service that you have worked so far, up to 6 months worth. So, for example, if you've already been working here for 4 years, in addition to the return of the contributions and interest, they would get 4 months of your salary. Okay. Now, if you are vested, and this includes if you're vested with reciprocal service credit, if you have reciprocity, your beneficiaries have an expanded set of choices. They still have that first option that I just showed you, the return of contributions and interest plus the salary. There's also a monthly survivor's allowance. There's also a combination of the two. There's a lump sum payment upfront and then a reduced survivor's allowance. And we offer them these three choices in that situation. Okay. Now, you'll note option two says to qualified beneficiaries only. That's spouse, domestic partner, and minor children. Okay, now having said that, you can forget I said that because there's this enhanced option that we just started offering about a year and a half ago called the Advanced Death Benefit Election. And this is an election that you can make extremely easily. Okay. So you'll see it's the same three options, but for options, I think actually option three, it might be to any beneficiary. I'll have to check on that. But option two, it allows you to name any beneficiary for a survivor's allowance and it maximizes that amount. And in almost all cases, as long as you make this advanced death benefit election, if they choose the monthly survivor's allowance, it's going to be more money than it had you not made this election. Okay. To make the election is very easy. All you do is if you want to read more about it, you go to acera.org/ADV and there's a page that tells you about the advanced death benefit election. To make the election, all you do is you fill out our beneficiary designation form, and we redesigned it about a year and a half ago, so it has a checkbox for this election. Okay. And I'll show you this in just a second, but you're going to save the form for your device. You're going to complete the whole thing. You're going to check the box for the advanced death benefit election, print and sign the form, and then there's instructions on how to submit it. So let me show that to you. You go to acera.org/BEN. for beneficiary designation form. It's a shortcut to this PDF. Your first step, save the PDF to your device. Okay. Second step, once you open it on your device, start filling it out. Okay. So you can see it's electronically fillable. Okay. So you just fill it all out. Then you name your primary beneficiaries. Let me zoom in here for you so you can see it better. You name your primary beneficiaries. There's three sets of fields. You can name three primary beneficiaries. If you need more, you can just contact us and we'll give you an addendum that you can do that on. And then your primary beneficiaries are the primary person that you want your death benefits to go to. And then you have the opportunity to name contingent beneficiaries. So you fill that out. You always should name backup contingent beneficiaries in the case that whenever you die, your primary beneficiary is no longer alive. So it's always good to have a backup. And then you get down here to section 4. All you do is check this box to do the advanced death benefit election. There is no disadvantage to making this election. There's no scenario where this is not advantageous to your beneficiary. So, like I said, this allows you to name anyone for lifetime continuance, not just spouse, domestic partner, and minor children. And it also maximizes the lifetime payment to them should you die before you retire. And there is more information that you can read here. And then all you do, if you have a spouse or domestic partner, they need to sign here. So you put their information here. And then you'll note that you can't sign electronically with this form. So it gives you 5 options to submit it. So all you do is you print it out, you sign it. If you have a spouse or domestic partner, they sign it, and then you use one of the options to submit it to us. There's even an option to upload it into your member direct account. And once you make the advanced death benefit election, that ensures the maximum amount goes to your beneficiaries. All active members should do this. If you're a deferred member, don't worry about it. It doesn't apply to deferred members. All active members should do this. Like I said, there's no downside. Um, you can submit the form today. If you know you already did this, don't worry about it. We have it on file. If you don't remember whether you did it, you have 2 options. You can call us. We'll tell you whether you checked the box or not. We have that on file, or you can just resubmit it. You can submit your beneficiary designation form however often you want to. Every time you submit a new beneficiary designation form to us, it supersedes any previous beneficiary designations you made. If you designated your beneficiary for other benefits with your employer, like um, death benefits that your employer offers, that's totally separate from ACERA, and you need to designate your ACERA beneficiaries with our beneficiary designation form. The only other place that you would do this is on the ACERA welcome form. There also is a checkbox to make the advanced death benefit election and the opportunity to name beneficiaries. So keep your beneficiaries up to date, keep them current. There's more information about the death benefits at acera.org/death. You can always find the beneficiary designation form on our forms page if you forget the shortcut. You can always check your beneficiaries in your account. If you log in there, there's a beneficiary screen and you'll see who your beneficiaries are. And if you ever note that those are no longer the people that you want to leave your death benefits to, you go ahead and rename your beneficiaries by resubmitting a form. As soon as we receive the form, your beneficiaries are redesignated. And what else did I want to say about that? Oh, somebody asked, for the beneficiaries, are you required to provide their social security number? We will eventually need their social security number, but if you want to go ahead and submit the form without it, the minimum amount that we need for you to redesignate your beneficiary today is the name and the relationship to you and the percentage of the benefit. So if you have one beneficiary, you just go ahead and type in 100. If you have two, you could do 50-50 or whatever percentage you want to do between them. It just has to add up to 100. Okay. Fill out as much information as you have, though, and then we'll contact you to try to get the rest of the information at some future point. But if you just need to redesignate your beneficiary now, or you just want to make sure that you do the election, just do it right now, even if you don't have the social security number. Check the box, submit it to us today. And then somebody's asking, will the website show if you've already elected the advanced death benefit? It will not. We have not figured out how to make that happen yet. We will eventually because it's an important thing to know, but we have not figured that out. So the only way to figure that out is to, if you have retained a copy of it that you sent in, you can go look at it, or you can give us a call, 510-628-3000, and we can tell you, or you can send us an email if you log into Member Direct and send us an email. Oh, one more thing that I forgot to mention, sorry I didn't mention this earlier, is if you are brand new and you have only been in your full-time retirement eligible position for less than 7 weeks, you may not be able to log into the account immediately. And there was a person who was having a problem logging in earlier or getting the enrollment pin. That could be another reason. If you haven't been here for 7 weeks yet, it takes 7 weeks for your employer to transmit your data to us, and then we send you a letter in the mail, a welcome letter, and it gives you instructions on how to create your Member Direct account. Sorry, I didn't mention that before. Okay, let's see. There's two more questions. Are the medical benefits available when you retire? You don't have to have health coverage already, be employed with our current employer or any other requirement. Correct. Retirement is a qualifying event for enrolling in our healthcare plans. So you can immediately get into our healthcare plans upon retirement. And we will help you do that at the time of retirement. Next question. Can a Sarah ever go bankrupt where all of these payouts become null and void? Uh, it would have to be an apocalyptic situation. Anything short of that, the answer is no. Because um, I showed you those three sources of income. You're paying into a Sarah, your employer is paying into a Sarah, and we are earning money on the investments, okay? So, if you look at our investment history, we have earned annually over 7% for many, many years, decades. So we have that source of income. Okay, now, there's short-term ups and downs. Sometimes we're in 5%, couple of years, there was a negative. Sometimes we earn 20, 25%. So it's up and down. But if you annualize it, it's over 7%. Now, we have the employee contributions, we have the investment earnings, okay? And we have a projection of how much benefits we owe now that we have to pay current retirees and what we're going to owe in the future to future retirees. We have an actuary who calculates all that stuff for us and gives us an actuarial valuation every year. Okay, so we know how much we owe, and that tells us how much to collect. Now, if the employee contribution and the investment earnings don't won't get us enough, then we collect extra from the employer, and that's the way the law is written. So the employer is on the hook for paying in the extra, and all of our employers always pay in 100% of the employer contribution that they owe. So it's there's I can't think of a scenario where you would not receive your guaranteed pension for the rest of your life. Okay, somebody's saying when I started long ago, we were told after 20 years we would be fully invested in our medical, and I was told that that has changed. Is that correct? So it used to be the case that the monthly medical allowance paid 100% of the self premium um, of the lowest group plan that we offer. That has not been true for 16 years, I think. About 16 years ago, in order to maintain the sustainability of that reserve fund, the board changed how they do it, and now they have a fixed dollar amount that they offer, and they decide each year whether to increase that dollar amount. And that amount has not increased at the same rate that the premiums have increased over the years, so there is a gap until you reach Medicare age. At age 65, if you have at least 15 years of service credit, it pays your whole self premium. But until age 65, there is an additional amount that you would need to pay. And that's just because the medical benefits are extra benefits. They're not guaranteed benefits, and they're based on the availability of reserve funds. And the board is trying to make sure that that fund stays sustainable. One side note that I will offer is that um, the Acera offers a greater amount of those healthcare and other additional benefits than any county in California. Okay, so we have about 20 minutes to talk about. I might go a little bit over into the deferred comp time. We have 20 minutes to talk about the last two topics, understanding career planning options and making a retirement planning picture. So, understanding career planning options. At some point in the future, you're not going to work here anymore. What are your options regarding Acera and your membership with Acera? Well, option number one is that if you are eligible to retire at the time that you stop working here, you can just go ahead and retire. You will earn service credit right up until your last 15 minutes on your last day on payroll. We will even convert your sick leave on a 2-to-1 basis to service credit if you go straight from active work into retirement. So you'll get a little boost in your service credit number. You can work after retirement if you want to. Anywhere else besides our six employers, we don't care. You're an Acera retiree. You get your pension for the rest of your life. Or you could come back to work for one of our six employers and you can continue your retirement payments. You don't earn any additional retirement credit and there are some restrictions that apply. Or if you come back to work for one of our Acera employers, you can pause your retirement payments. This is a brand new option that happened within the last year. You can pause your retirement payments, then you do earn additional credit toward retirement. You kind of earn a second retirement, and then when you retire, your first retirement kicks back in, and also you get the additional from the second, so you actually end up earning more. That's your first option when you leave here, is to retire. Your second option is that you don't have to retire immediately. You could stop working here and not retire from Acera. And there's kind of three sub options under that umbrella. Sub option A is that you become a deferred member with Acera, which means you leave your contributions on deposit here, you don't take a refund, and you're still an Acera member, but you're deferring your retirement to a later date, or you're deferring your decisions to a later date. Option B is to establish reciprocity and link Acera with another retirement system to gain some synergy. Option C is to take a refund of your contribution account, which is your employee contributions and interest. So let me tell you about option A. Okay, so option A is that instead of going right into retirement from when you leave work, there's a gap here between your last day on payroll and when you possibly will retire because you do retain that option. So option A is that you leave your contributions on deposit with Acera. You're still an Acera member. You're just a deferred member. Interest accumulates. There's no negative interest. People ask me what I mean by that. It means that we never take money out of your contribution account. The balance of your account only goes up. We have two 6-month interest periods per year. If we, in the short term, let's say we have a negative return one of those 6 months, well, we don't post a negative return to your account. We don't take any money out of your account. We maybe for that 6 months we don't put any money in, but then the next 6-month period maybe then we do earn money. Then we put money in. Okay, so interest accumulates with the amount of interest that we have historically earned. Like I was saying, it's been over 7% annualized if you look at our historic interest rate. And you can go to acera.org/interest and see how much money that we've earned going back to the early 90s. Um, I don't know anywhere else you can park your money that has zero risk, like um, keeping your money on deposit here with the amount of interest that we earn. You can also retire later out of deferred status. Or you could come back to work later and earn more credit toward retirement, so earn a higher retirement and become an active member again. Or you could be refunded at any time. So maybe when you stop working here, you don't have to make a decision immediately. If you're trying to think about whether you want to take a refund, you don't have to decide immediately. You could just let your money sit there. It'll collect interest. And then at some later point, you could decide, okay, I want to take a refund, which is going to be option C. And you could do that. More info at acera.org/defer. If you are thinking about doing that, there's some good reasons to become a deferred member. There's some not so good reasons, and it details that on that page. Okay, let's talk about option B, establishing reciprocity. Establishing reciprocity is linking multiple retirement systems together in California, California retirement systems. There's a full list at acera.org/reciprocity, but many cities in California we can link with their pension systems. All the counties in California in 1937 Act counties are individual county pension systems. We can link with all of those. Any California state job or any agency that uses the California pension system, CalPERS, but we do not have reciprocity with the UC system. Would you want to link pension systems together? Well, there's a synergy that happens between the pension systems. You get benefits from linking them together. One of the benefits is that the service credit that you earn under all of the systems combined is used for the vesting and retirement eligibility. So, for example, let's say you work over in Contra Costa County for 2 years, and then you come over here. You work for one of Acera's employers, you're an Acera member, and you earn 3 years of service credit here. Well, between this pension system and that pension system, if you link them together by establishing reciprocity, you have 5 years combined. And if you're a Tier 4 member and you're over age 52, as a general member, you would be eligible to retire. And if you didn't link them, you would only have 2 years of service credit in the first system, three in the second system, and you wouldn't be eligible in either place. Okay. So that's one of the synergistic effects. The second is that the highest salary that you earn under any reciprocal system is used by all the systems. So this was what I was referring to earlier about dialing in that salary amount. This is one option. Getting another job in a reciprocal agency that pays a higher salary will give you a higher retirement allowance under all of the systems you have linked together. So, for example, let's say that you were making $20 an hour over in Contra Costa County. You get your job over for Acera's employers, and you're making $35 an hour. And let's say you worked over there for 2 years and you come over here and work for 10 years. You go to retire, and you establish reciprocity. You go to retire. You retire from both systems on the same day. We're both going to do a retirement calculation. Acera is going to use your 10 years here, your higher salary here, and your age factor here. We're going to send you a check based on that. Your previous pension system, Contra Costa County, that you're also retiring from simultaneously, they're going to use your 2 years over there, but they're going to use your higher salary that you're getting over here. You're going to get way more from them than you would have if they had used the lower salary that you were earning under that system. So that is one way, one of the benefits of establishing reciprocity. Now, it could put you into an earlier tier if your entry date into a previous system was before the tier cutoff for tier two. And it could, if that happens, it could make it so that you pay a lower contribution rate in many cases. To qualify for reciprocity, you just need to do a few things. The first, you have to leave contributions on deposit with every system you want to link together. Do not take a refund. You also do not want to have more than a 6-month gap between when you stop working for the job in one system and you start the next job in the next system. If it's more than a 6-month gap, you cannot establish reciprocity. You don't want to have more than 12 weeks of overlapping service between systems. In fact, I say have no overlapping service. People will do this where they have vacation left over on the books and they'll go out on vacation at the end of their time at one employer, but they'll immediately start working for another employer. That can cause problems with reciprocity. So just they're going to cash you out for your unused vacation anyway. So just end one employment and begin the other employment after that. It could be on a Friday and a Monday, but just have a clean break from one to the other. And then you have to retire from all the systems on the same day. Okay. Oops. Hang on one second. Hang on one second. I just made a mistake. Okay. Your last option, option C, if you stop working here and don't retire immediately, is you can take a refund of your contribution account. When you do that, you're only getting the employee contributions and interest. You're not getting the employer contributions. Those never get refunded. The only way you take advantage of the employer contributions is by retiring from a SARA and drawing your lifetime pension. If you do take a refund and you're looking for cash, you're probably going to lose a third of your money immediately to taxes and penalties. In order to avoid that, you can roll over that money into another pre-tax account, and you don't have to pay taxes and penalties at that time. It can take some time to process the refunds. It's not instantaneous. And when you do it, you're saying that you want to waive all your rights to ACERA benefits. You don't want the lifetime pension. You don't want to access the health care benefits. You don't want to access the death benefits. You just want to take your money and do whatever you want. And of course, that's your right. One thing that I do want to remind you of, if you're considering option C ever, is that if you, instead of doing that, you take option A and become a deferred member and then retire later, or you take the first option and just retire immediately, we are going to already sort of refund your money to you in the form of monthly pension payments within your first 3 to 5 retired years. You're going to get all this money back anyway that you would have gotten in the one-time lump sum refund, and you're going to get way more because you're going to get paid every month for the rest of your life. There's not a lot of scenarios where it is advantageous if you can retire and take the pension to take the refund instead. Because if you do retire from a SARA and your retirement is more than that first 3 to 5 years, you're going to get way more money. Okay. So our last topic, making a retirement planning picture. I might go a little over into the deferred compensation time, but I just want to walk you through this because I feel like this is the most powerful kind of culmination of the entire webinar. Okay, so you already saw this slide. Financial planners say that you're going to need to replace 80% of your working salary with retirement income, and that income is going to come from your ACERA pension or any other pensions you have and Social Security, and anything beyond that is going to be your personal savings and investments. And at this point, you might be saying, how am I going to know whether it's going to replace, whether I'm going to achieve the 80% replacement? Will it come from the pension and Social Security alone? How do I know that? Well, what we're going to do, what I'm going to walk you through is getting some projections, and then we're going to use a calculator to determine if you need to save additional money, and we're going to get you pointed at that 80% income replacement. So first off, step one, you get estimates. You get your ACERA estimate, and you get your Social Security estimate. Your SARA estimate again is you log into your account, go to the benefit estimator, type in your scenario with your dates, your plausible retirement scenario, and you hit generate, and you're going to end up with your retirement benefit estimate. Now, what I suggest, I like to suggest, and what I'm going to walk you through right now is getting an estimate for age 62 to start off with. So retiring at age 62. And the reason I suggest starting there is because you can immediately include income from Social Security. So if you retired at age 62, you can expect to receive your SARA pension and Social Security all at once. And so you can include that in your planning. If you retire earlier than 62, you would just be looking at the pension and your personal savings, and Social Security would come later. Okay, and you can do that. So I recommend starting with age 62 and then doing some scenarios for earlier ages if you want to retire earlier than that. Okay, so the scenario I'm going to do is for retiring at age 62. So you get your ACERA pension benefit estimate. It shows you your estimated monthly benefit. And then I think for the purposes of doing this planning, you can just go by the unmodified option because that's what most people end up picking anyway. Okay. So you just make note of that. You save that PDF on your device, or you can just make note of whatever the amount is. Okay. So I'm going to use the example of a projected ACERA retirement allowance of $3,007 per month at age 62. Okay, then you get a Social Security estimate. So you go to ssa.gov/estimator and you use their estimator. You log into your personal account over on their website and you get an estimate. I actually need to update this slide because their estimator looks a little bit different now. But what it does is it'll do about the same thing, which is it gives you three different estimates for retiring at the earliest time that you can retire from Social Security, which is age 62. Then it will give you two other estimates for probably age 67 and 70, but it could be a little bit different for you depending on your age and situation. And it also gives you the opportunity to pick different ages. You can pick anywhere in between. So you get that estimate from Social Security, save that to your device, okay? So I'm going to stick with the age 62 estimate, and I'm going to do an example of Social Security saying that if I started drawing my Social Security at the earliest age I could, age 62, they would pay me $2,046 per month. Okay. So now I have the ACERA estimate. Now I have the Social Security estimate. Do I know whether these dollar amounts are going to replace 80% of my income? I don't know that yet. What I'm going to do is use a calculator to figure that out. So you don't need to do any math. All you do is use a one of these free retirement calculators online. Okay. Now there are a bunch of them out there. You can Google retirement calculators and like 30 of them will pop up. The best ones that I recommend trying for you all are ones that will allow you to put in your ACERA pension and your Social Security income, and then it will calculate how much additional you need to save. And here are some examples of those. I'm going to walk you through one of them just to show it to you. You can also do that kind of stuff in the Empower Retirement Calculator if you start a 457B account. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I'm going to walk you through the Vanguard calculator as an example. And in fact, I'm just going to go out to the website and just walk you straight through it. Okay, so if you go to acera.org/planning, or if you go under members and go down to planning your future retirement income, we have a whole page where you can take your time to do this. So I'm going to kind of do it quickly. This new video right here, we just posted this a couple of weeks ago. This is the 20-minute walkthrough of what I'm about to do in like 5 or 10 minutes. And so you can take your time and do it, and it'll walk you through it. Okay. And I'm going to scroll down here where we have already given you some shortcuts to link out to those calculators that you can try. Okay, so I'm going to try the Vanguard calculator. The reason that these are free is because they want you to go to their calculator, calculate retirement savings, and then they want you to invest your money with them, with Vanguard or Charles Schwab or whatever. But you don't have to do that. You can just use the calculator for free. And then I'm going to recommend that you save your additional money in your 457B plan, perhaps on a pre-tax basis if that works for you. Okay, so what this is going to do is this is going to ask you some questions about your situation. So you just fill in your data here, and then it will give you a projection on whether your Sarah pension and Social Security will get you to your target income replacement, and if not, it will tell you how much additional to save. So in this example, I'm going to say that this example member is 35 years old, and I said that I'm going to start and see what happens if they retire at age 62. Okay. And then it's going to ask you for your salary. So you put in your salary, and then it's going to ask you how much you save per year of your salary. Now, let's say that it's zero. If you don't save anything yet, additional, don't worry. We're going to decide right now whether you need to save additional money and how much. So you could just leave it at zero to start off with. It's also going to ask you how much you've already saved toward retirement. And if that's zero, feel free to leave it at zero. Okay, so don't sweat that. This one right here is the income replacement amount that you want to target. I suggest starting at a minimum of 80%. Now, Gene Hilliard, our 457B expert, is going to try to get you pointed at 100% income replacement. Um, and I'll let him talk about that. And you can start like you can do this calculator as much as you want. So try 80, try 85, try 90, try 95. See what it tells you. Just play around with this until you kind of are able to dial in your additional savings and maybe dial in the a higher income replacement amount. Okay, then this last number is assuming that if you need to save additional money, that you are going to save it in some place that has the opportunity to earn interest. So you're basically going to invest your additional savings. That's the assumption here. Okay. Now you don't have to you don't have to assume that. You could probably I think you can leave it at 0%. You can go as little as low as 1%, which is like what you would get from a CD. Um, but I recommend 5% if you're kind of conservative for the purposes of this calculator. 6% maybe moderately conservative. 7% is maybe moderate. Okay. Sarah's assumption rate, assumed in rate of investment earnings is 7%. Um, and so we're kind of a moderate investor. I'm going to leave this at 6%. I'm going to go moderately conservative for this. And when you actually decide on how much to save and where to save, especially in a place like the 457B plan, that's when you can use the controls inside that account to determine what level of what your appetite for risk is and what level of risk you want to assume. Um, and so that's how you would kind of, target that type of percentage. Okay, now this is why I like to show the Vanguard calculator is it allows you to put in the estimated amount from Social Security that you obtained and the estimated amount of your Acera pension that you have obtained. Okay, so then I'm going to hit calculate. Now, what this is telling me is it's showing me over here on this bar and in this dollar amount how many dollars it thinks I'm going to need to pay for my expenses in retirement if I'm trying to achieve 80% income replacement. Over here, it's telling me through my pension benefit, which is the lighter green, and the Social Security, which is the darker green, how much income it thinks I'm going to have in comparison to how much I'm going to need. And you'll note the dollar amount is less and the bar is lower. So what we need to do, what this is telling me is that if I came here asking whether I need to save additional money to achieve 80% income replacement, the answer is yes, because there is a gap here. So what's good about this is that if you do this exercise and you do it now in the present, when you actually go to retire, like you have a lot of time in between now and when you retire to fix that or to make adjustments to that. So we're gonna just continue the scenario and see what adjustments we might want to make. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is edit the results and I'm going to see what happens if I increase my savings because currently it's not including any personal savings in here because I told it that I wasn't saving any. So let's see what happens if I were to save $1,000 per year additional. I'm going to hit calculate again. Okay, so now it's added in the retirement savings bar, but it's not quite filling in the gap. So I'm going to edit the results again to 4,000. What happens if I save 4,000 a year? Okay, it's getting closer. Let me make a final adjustment here. What happens if I say 4,500 per year? Now hit calculate. Okay, now you can see the bars are pretty even. This one got a little bit bigger, so you can make adjustments to that. And what this is telling me is that it is expecting under that scenario that I just typed in that I will have adequate income replacement because the bars are even. So what it's saying is in this scenario, if I was 35 and I was going to retire at age 62 and this is my salary and I save this percentage of my salary each year, which happens to be this dollar amount, and I'm trying to target 80% income replacement and I'm going to invest moderately conservative, this money, I'm going to invest this extra money moderately conservative, I would need to save about 5% of my income each year. In order to achieve that 80% income replacement, I would need to save about 4,500 per year. Now, you might go through this exercise and it'll give you a dollar amount and it might sound high. So what I recommend doing is then you go to your calculator and divide it by 26 pay periods and see how much it would look like per pay period. $173. Okay. So then what you're thinking is you think about your paycheck, look at your pay stub, and think, can I find $173 worth of room in my pay? But actually, if you decide to save additional money on a pre-tax basis in a 457B account, you're not going to see a dollar for dollar reduction if you do decide to take $173 out in this example. You're only going to see about maybe an estimated 25-30% of that. So if we multiply that by 0.75 just as a ballpark, what you would be thinking is, can I find $130 worth of room in my take home pay? Maybe you can find that type of room in your take home pay. Maybe your current expenses are, don't quite let you do that. Okay. What I recommend is if it does say that you need to save additional money, you go through this exercise, but whatever it's telling you, you don't think you can quite get there, just start where you can. And the minimum amount you can start off with saving in the 457B plan is $20 per month. So you start there. And then later, see if you can increase it. See if you can increase it more. And see if over time you can get up to when you do the calculators what it's telling you. Okay, and then once you get up to the level it's telling you, you are appointed in the 80% income replacement trajectory or whatever percent you're targeting. And so you're done for now. But what I recommend doing is coming back every 6 months or a year, doing the whole thing again, do both projections and then the calculator. Make sure that you're still pointed in that trajectory. Make sure that the savings amount that it's telling you will keep you pointed in that trajectory. Maybe you have to make little adjustments to your amount of savings. Crank it up, crank it down, whatever. Um, or if you only crank it up, that's probably the best way to do it. Um, and then I think you'll find if you continue to do this exercise over the course of your career, you will find that by the time you get to retirement, through the combination of your pension, Social Security, and additional savings, you will have achieved the income replacement percentage that you're targeting. And that's how you do that. You don't need to do any math. Just use all the calculators, get the projections, plug the numbers in. That's how that works. Okay, so there's some more info you can read here. If you do decide, once you do the exercise, that you want to save additional money, I happen to think that the best place to save it, or one of the best places to save it, is the 457B plan. Now, I'm going to bring in our 457B expert at this point. So again, Sarah is separate from the 457B plan. I just want to remind everybody about that. Okay. Sarah is your pension, and then the 457B could be the place that you save extra money toward retirement. And the power of the 457B is that you can save directly out of your paycheck on a pre-tax basis. You don't have to save pre-tax, and Gene Hilliard will tell you all about that. Um, but it's a very easy place to kind of set it and forget it to save that additional money. And that fills in that third point, that third place in the retirement planning formula for you. Okay, so you all as government employees have access to save additional money in a 457B account. Every single one of our six employers has that. Gene Hilliard is our resident expert. He has been hired by Alameda County for many, many years to provide education and also administration on the deferred compensation plan. Deferred compensation and 457B plan are sort of synonymous here. And if you don't work for Alameda County, stick around because 99% of what he has to say will still apply to you. Okay. So we have exhausted my expertise, so I'm going to turn it over to the 457B expert. Gene, are you there?
I am here. How's it going? Well done. Well
Thank
done,
you.
Mike.
Welcome. All right. So feel free to go ahead and share your presentation.
Will do.
I do see a few questions up in the Q&A. I'll type out the answers to those as Gene's doing his presentation.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. How am I looking on your end, Mike?
I see. Yeah, I don't see that you're sharing anything.
Oh, okay. Let me go back. Share. How about now?
Okay, it's coming through. Looks good. Take
All
it
right.
away.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, good morning, everyone. As Mike said, my name is Gene Hilliard. I'm Vice President, Financial Advisor of Emerge Financial Group. We're financial services firm here in Oakland, helping our clients with investments, helping our clients with taxes and accounting, et cetera. And as Mike mentioned, I've been working with county employees for roughly 16 years, 16 and a half years, with helping them with investment guidance with their deferred comp accounts, and also to provide retirement planning education, such as what I'm doing right now, presentations, etc. Okay. And I'm also wanted to let you know I'm a retirement counselor. And my goal as a retirement counselor is to help each one of you maintain your current lifestyle in retirement. Okay. What exactly does that mean? Remember, Mike was talking about how most financial planners say, you need about 80% of your pre-retirement income. But I want you to be able to maintain your current lifestyle. And that's why I choose to help you shoot for 100%. Okay. And for a couple of reasons. Obviously, here, I want you to maintain your current lifestyle, but also the more that you put into deferred comp, you may create a scenario where you can retire before you're 62. Because remember, Mike talked about, and I agree with him 100%, when you're doing your retirement planning, you want to assume that you're going to retire at 62. But if you can really supercharge how much you're putting into deferred comp, maybe you can retire at 55 or 58. You have enough money in deferred comp, and then that will buy you some time. So when you turn 62, you can then turn on your Social Security. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. Um, the good news is you work for Alameda County, great government agency, one of the last government agencies that offer a pension. So if you stay with the county any significant amount of time, 20 plus years, even if you're tier four, you're looking at possibly 40, 50% of your salary. So you're almost there. So how do you close that gap? You close that gap through investing in deferred comp. And I'm going to talk a little bit about deferred comp right now. Okay. See if I can get this to work. There we go. All right, so here are the key topics for today. We're going to talk about retirement income. We're going to talk about the benefits of saving through the plan, and we're going to talk about enrolling. Okay, so let's start with retirement income. When you're starting the retirement planning journey, it is important to have somewhat of an idea of what the end goal is. Is the end goal $1 million, $2 million? What is the end goal? But I'd say the first step would be to just try to imagine what retirement is going to look like. Okay. Do you envision traveling? Most people envision traveling in retirement. It's the first thing that comes up. But in my retirement planning meetings, I like to ask the question, where exactly are you going? How much is it going to cost you? How often are you going to travel? So we can turn that travel into money to determine how much you're going to need to save to help you get there. Will you be spending more time with your family? Okay, that's probably a little cheaper depending on where your family lives. Your family's on the East Coast, hey, you're talking about, flights across the country. So how much is that going to cost you? Vacation home. Do you envision having a second home? How much is that second home going to cost? I know there's quite a few participants that I work with that plan on living outside the country when they retire. So they're buying property now to get ahead of it. Okay. So if that's on the horizon for you, we need to have an idea of how much all of this is going to cost. Okay. So pursuing the future, imagining what retirement looks like, and then turning that dream into a reality in terms of dollars. Okay, how much does it take? We talked about this earlier. Roughly 70-90% of your pre-retirement income will be needed. So 70 to 90%. But remember, I said we're going to shoot for 100. Now, there may be some of you are thinking to yourself, well, how in the world am I supposed to live off of 70 or 80% when I'm making X amount of dollars, right? But remember, there's a lot of costs that go away in retirement that you no longer have to pay for. So just stop for a moment and think about what costs go away. I'd like to start with Social Security. Do you still have to pay Social Security taxes when you retire? The answer is no. There's a big chunk that comes out of your paycheck going to a SARA. Do you have to continue to pay that in retirement? The answer is no. For those of you who are currently and will contribute to deferred comp, that goes away. So there's a lot of costs that are going to go away in retirement. So it's possible you can potentially live off of less if you choose to go that route. Okay. Now let's talk about income. Where will your income come from? Mike did an excellent job of pointing you in the direction of where to find out how much you're going to get from Social Security. He also talked about where do you go to find out how much you're going to get from your pension in retirement. Do you anticipate having some investment property that you're going to live off the rents, or you have investment accounts where you're living off the dividends? Do you anticipate working in retirement? So this is kind of where your income will come from in retirement. Now, I'm sure a question is going to come up: how much of my deferred comp balance am I allowed to withdraw? In order in a situation where I'm being responsible, I'm being thoughtful, and I don't run out of money? Well, I'd say by and large, you should start at about 4% annually. So take 4% of your deferred comp, and that's roughly how much you can responsibly withdraw from your deferred comp when you retire. So you can add all that up. Social Security, you're going to add your pension. If you plan on working during retirement, knock yourself out, and then roughly 4 or 5% of your deferred comp or any retirement balances. So let's talk a little bit about the benefits of your plan. Okay. Number one, it's easy. Money comes directly out of your paycheck and it's deposited. You tell us a specific dollar amount per year you want or a percent of your salary. I prefer that participants go with the latter. Why? Because as you get raises, the contribution amount automatically increases. If you're using a specific dollar amount per paycheck, you'd have to go back in and increase how much you're contributing. And I've found 9 times out of 10, you're going to forget or you're going to get used to that extra money that you receive from your raise and you never get around to raising it. So we want to take that guesswork out of it. We want to automate things. So I would prefer that you use a percent of your salary. How much should you contribute to deferred comp? All depends, personal preference. I typically tell people start between 5 to 10%. At least start there. And then we can fine tune it as you get closer to retirement or a year in, year in. Because, maybe you plan on retiring at 55. Then that's going to require some significant saving on the front end. Or maybe you anticipate retiring at 75. So you may not have to invest as much. But we need to, how much you should contribute is a personal preference. It's personal based on your goals. Here's some of the highlights for 2025. If you're under 50, you can contribute 23,500. If you're 50 and over, it's 31,000 total. You also have access to an additional catch up for those folks who are 60, 61, 62, or 63. You can contribute the 23,500 plus the 11,250 to a total of 34,750. And then lastly, there is the 3-year catch up that you can participate in, about $47,000 a year, but you can only participate in that program for 3 years. Another question is going to come up: Gene, what about 2026? Have the numbers changed? Yes, the numbers have changed. So if you're under 50, the maximum contribution amount annually is 24,500. Okay. And if you are 50 and over, the catch up for the 50 and over is 8,500. No, I'm sorry, it's 8,000. Yeah, it's 8,000. Okay. There may have been an email that recently went out regarding the max. So you might want to check your email. I think it went out yesterday or the day before. The 60 to 63 contribution amount for 2026 has not changed. So it's 11,250 additional that you can invest in deferred comp. Okay. Some more highlights. There's no vesting schedule. Every dollar that you put into deferred comp is yours. You don't have to wait 5 years, 2 years, 3 years to access your money. The only thing you do have to wait for is leaving county service. You have no access to your money while you're still working. You have to leave county service and then you can ask for money. Whether you retire or quit, doesn't matter. Then it's your money. However, there are exceptions. If you're currently working and there is a significant emergency in your life, there's an emergency withdrawal program that's available to you. And then also you have the ability to borrow against your deferred comp in the case of an emergency. It doesn't have to be an emergency, but if you need to borrow, there's a general purpose loan that you can take advantage of, maximum of 5 years to pay it back. And then there is the primary residence loan that you can apply for, $50,000 or half of your account, whichever is less, you pay yourself back with interest. So primary residence loan or the general purpose loan. Okay. If you have questions regarding the loan feature, I'd rather you just schedule an appointment with me and I'll break it down for you and give you some details. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the tax advantaged ways of participating in deferred comp. You can invest pre-tax. You can invest in the Roth version of deferred comps, not a Roth IRA. It's a Roth 457B or Roth deferred comp. Or you can initiate a rollover. Mike also had mentioned rolling money from a different plan. May have mentioned that, but you work for Napa County, San Joaquin County, you can roll your deferred comp into Alameda County with no taxes and penalties. Pre-tax. When is it a good time to invest in pre-tax? It's really about what tax bracket you believe you will be in when you retire. Okay, do you anticipate being in a lower tax bracket when you retire? If that's the question, or if that's the answer, it's lower, then yes, the pre-tax makes more sense. You're deferring taxes today, you're paying them later when you believe you're going to be in a lower tax bracket. Now, someone's probably thinking, well, Gene, you're the expert. What tax bracket am I going to be in? I have no idea. That's tax code. We don't know what the tax code is going to look like when you retire. However, I will say this. Um, if you're going to be generating less income in retirement, oftentimes it's a safe assumption that you're going to be in a lower tax bracket. Not always. We don't know what the tax code looks like, but it's a safe assumption. You're making less money in retirement, which you're not going to get 100% of your salary from a SARA, so you probably are generating less income. So the pre-tax version may make more sense. But if you believe that you might be in a higher tax bracket when you retire, all right, maybe you anticipate inheriting property from your parents. Maybe you have a spouse, domestic partner, significant other that works for a technology company that's going to go public in the future. Okay. Um, and you just believe you're going to be in a higher tax bracket, or you just want tax-free income. Whether or not it makes financial sense or not, you just prefer to get some tax-free income. Well, then go for the Roth version of deferred comp. So invest there. Maximums are the same. You're investing money into deferred comp Roth. You're paying the taxes on the front end, and you're avoiding having to pay taxes on the back end when you retire. However, there is a little bit of a catch. You have to be at least 59 and a half, and the account has to be open for 5 years for that increase to be tax free to you. Okay. Your money grows much faster in deferred comp, especially if you're investing pre-tax. You're not paying any taxes on your earnings. So your principal plus your interest is earning interest. And then your principal plus the interest is earning interest. So it grows much, much faster. And here's just an example of the rule of 72, which states two numbers, the product of two numbers typically will give you an idea of when your money will double. So if the product of two numbers equals 70, 71, 72, you can take a look at both of those numbers to determine when your account will double. And this is assuming it's stagnant. You're not adding to it. So if you're adding to your account, it's going to grow even faster. So for example, that where you see dollar amount X or two times X times 12 years. What that means is 12 years times a 6% rate of return. That's when your account will double. And you can flip it in 6 years at a 12% rate of return. Your money will double. Okay. And then obviously here it could also triple at a 6% rate of return. Um, your money will triple in 19 years. You do the math, kind of a great illustration of how your money triples, doubles. It kind of grows much, much faster than you anticipate. Okay. You're in charge. As I mentioned earlier, you choose a dollar amount, you choose a percent, and then we're off and running. You can make a change to your contribution amount at any time. But I would strongly encourage pick a number that you feel comfortable with, stick with it throughout the entire year, and then the following year, increase it a little bit, 1%, 2%. You're going to get used to that contribution that's going in there eventually. So you want it to hurt a little bit in order to set yourself up for a comfortable retirement. Okay. There are roughly three ways to invest your money. Um, Let me take a step back. There are roughly 15 core investments in deferred comp. You have index funds in there. You have a savings account if you're not interested in taking on any risk, earns about 2%. Uh, you have investments that if you're a socially responsible investment, there's an option in there for you. But if you just want to create a diversified portfolio, there's small cap companies, mid cap, large cap, international bonds, etc. Okay. So going over to option three, you can do it yourself. Choose, one, two, three, five, six of the core investments after you do your homework, and then you're off and running. But I'm sure many of you are probably not experts on investing. You don't have the time, the inclination to do your homework there. Well, there's option one and two are available to you. You have a do it for me option through Fisher. It's going to cost you a little bit more, but they will pick the appropriate investment for your situation, and then they will help you manage it. Option number two is the help me do it option. Most people take advantage of that option is through Goalmaker. And I just want to briefly talk about Goalmaker. Goalmaker is an award-winning investment program, asset allocation tool. You tell us what your investor style is. I'm conservative, moderate, aggressive. You tell us when you anticipate retiring, what year. Is it 2040, 2030, 2035? And then you get asset allocation, rebalancing, and then there's also an age adjustment in here. So here's an example of a moderate portfolio. And as you can kind of see here, it's got some stable values, some fixed income, large, small, international investments. That's the pie. And remember earlier, I just talked about rebalancing. So let's say hypothetically, we picked a portfolio where your 80% of your money is invested in stock funds, 20% is in bonds and cash, 80/20. And let's say hypothetically, the market did extremely well. Let's go back. The market performed extremely well, and now your account is a 90/10. And that's entirely possible. The stock piece of your portfolio really did well, and it's overwhelming the bonds, the cash portion, the more conservative investments. But we said 80/20 is much more appropriate. Okay. So, what rebalancing does, you started at 80/20, you're now at 90/10. The system does all the buying and selling and gets you back to that 80/20. Okay. These are kind of pretty close to the models that we're talking about here. They're You have your 16 plus model, 11 to 15 years before retirement model, et cetera, et cetera. It offers age adjustments. So as you get closer and closer to retirement, the system will sell some of your stocks, put more of your money in more conservative investments because you don't have time on your side to recoup any losses. So age adjustment is another nice feature that's part of the Goalmaker models. Okay. Consolidating, talked about that. You worked for Napa County, San Francisco County, San Joaquin County. may make sense to roll your money into deferred comp. You got to make sure that you complete the appropriate paperwork, got to do it right in order to avoid taxes and penalties. Reach out to me and I'll walk you through that process if you're interested. There are flexible distribution options once you leave county service at any age. So there's no 59 and a half, no penalty with deferred comp. Okay. So you can leave the county at any age. You have access to your money. You don't have to start withdrawing it until age 73. You do have the option, if you so choose, to roll your money that's in deferred comp into an IRA on the outside. Very few participants take advantage of that, but there are some that say, hey, Gene, I want to invest in real estate. Deferred comp doesn't offer a real estate investment option, so that's why I'm rolling it over. Or I want to invest in individual securities, individual stocks. I want to buy Apple. I want to buy Nvidia. I want to buy Microsoft, and I can't get a standalone stock purchase in deferred comp, so I'm rolling money out. And I say it makes total sense. I get it. But those options are available to you. How do you enroll? Go to treasurer.acgov.org to participate enroll in the plan. If you're currently in the plan and you just want to increase how much you're contributing, go to that same website and then just look for the payroll modification form. Okay. If you haven't already, or when you do get signed up for deferred comp, great tools. I want to make sure that everyone registers for the Empower website. Go to AlamedaCountyDCP.com. There's a plan feature option there, investments, if you want to take a look at the investment options. And there's some great learning tools, webinars, etc., that are available to you. Now, I will warn you, if you're not currently enrolled, you can't register for the website. If you're enrolled in the plan, you can register for the website and then take advantage of all the tools that are available to you. Okay. There's a PIN number you'll need to go through when you're registering, but just follow the instructions. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I encourage everyone, make sure you grab the app on your phone, the Empower app, to be able to access your account, tools, calculators, etc. Let's see. If you want to, if you have questions, whether questions for me as an investment advisor or you have questions for Empower, 855-969-4572 is the telephone number. You can also schedule an appointment with us at AlamedaCountyDCP.com. Click on, if you want to schedule an appointment with me, go to that website. I believe it's Meet Your Plan Representatives. Click on that. And then there's going to be some, here we go. So Mark's on there, myself, Dan, Jose. Schedule an appointment. We're doing virtuals, we're doing phone, we're doing some in person. So just reach out to me if you're interested in an in-person meeting. But I think a virtual, it's pretty convenient. I'm able to share my screen with you, etc. So, but you just let me know how you want to operate. Okay. So with that, I'd love to entertain some questions.